to Beyond the Mist, Episode 1. Let's see if I think I got to turn up the music a little bit on my end, but hi everyone.
And I'm here too. Oh wait, we're not there yet.
Hey, calm down.
Oh, good stuff.
Yeah, well, what's going on? So this is going to be our new weekly show here on the YouTubes on the 6 and 20 channel. We're currently going to be doing a show periodically talking about how to play the game and how it relates to our campaign that we're currently all playing in. If you guys don't know, or if you're just like clicking this video, we play in a campaign that spans over 3 channels. There is 4 cast members on each channel, ran by one insane person who keeps track of everything that goes on, which I believe the links will be in the description down below in times when the episodes plays. And we'll probably explain that as we go through here. I don't think we have anyone from Tuesday Crew. Oh, wow. Well, I'll represent Tuesday Crew then. So
we got a whole lot of Thursday Crew, just not.
Yeah, and one Wednesday Crew.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah. We're gonna go around the bend here. Let's see. Unmade Gaming. Tell us about yourself.
I'm 5'6". I don't like long walks on the beach. I prefer to stay at home and play video games and Dungeons and Dragons. But as for that, I run a gaming channel on Twitch, and I am one of the creators of 6 and 20, along with Speedy and Video Store Cowboy.
And speaking of Speedy, Not So Speedruns.
Hi, I'm Speedy, or Not So Speedruns, and you may notice that my voice still sounds like I have a cold because I still do. I'm also one of the hosts of 6 and 20 over on Not So Speedruns, and I play a lovely bartender character named Gio.
And last but not least, me.
You haven't talked about you.
Trendane.
That would be me, and I am not a host on Twitch at all, but I play Calvin the satyr.
And I'm McLoken, your wonderful host that just threw a pencil in the air. I'll be hosting every week, so you can see this ugly mug right here at the 6 and 20 YouTube channel. And if you guys haven't already, like, comment, and subscribe, because I never get to say that on Twitch.
You could, it just wouldn't mean much.
No, it wouldn't. Well, I mean the subscribe part and be like, money. I love you. That's essentially how it translates. But yeah. So you three there was 4 minds who made it. Johnny, who's not here currently at this time, Video Store Cowboy, the guy who DMs everything. He and you 3 created this world. Now, I'm kind of curious, how did you guys all get together and kind of decide that you guys wanted to do this?
Mere happenstance and coincidence. So this is the second iteration of 6 and 20. The first one was, of course, Blades of the Dark, which the rest of us were all players on. And that literally came to fruition on a whim. I had asked Johnny, hey, you've been talking about Blades in the Dark. Do you want to run a one-shot on my charity stream? He said, yep, ran a one-shot. And then, Speedy, you had a one-shot show and asked him the same thing, hey, run it on my one-shot show. So he basically took the same world and actually used characters and NPC crossover in that one-shot, thinking, this will be a fun throwaway gag. And then a few weeks later, both Speedy and I said, hey, do you want to run a show on my channel? Almost simultaneously. And he said, yes, let's put it in the same universe. And we said, okay, sure.
Yeah. The man was crazy.
Yeah.
And then from there,
is crazy. Present.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. He made a crazy decision and continues to make crazy decisions by continuing to do it every week. But yeah, from there, we, casted our shows, including wonderful Trendane, over on either side of me. I'm not really sure which it is on this overlay.
I don't know where you guys are, but I keep wanting to look towards you guys. I'm like, I can't know where you guys are.
We had had 3 whole seasons of that. And when we decided what we were going to look at next, City of Mist was hot, and we had seen like a little bit of the world there, and we're all kind of intrigued by it. and so I forget if it was Johnny or Mike who suggested the system of City of Mist originally, but we together kind of decided that was what we wanted to do, and when it came to world building, Johnny, like, in DMing, he kind of knew that like a lot of the world of City of Mist is intentionally vague. It's left that way because the city itself is vague. The power of the mist concealing the superpowers of the average individual is all like it's meant to be obscured in some way. And we wanted to try and kind of bring some clarity to that. Like, what is it that's going on behind this veil? And like, how did things get to the point where they are now in the city?
Yeah, it was that. Plus, we decided between the two shows to like essentially flip the script, right? Because Blades in the Dark is you're playing bad guys, and the reason Trendane got brought on to the world building process was because during the game we did a ton of world building, and Trendane especially, you had like a 14 page backstory, not to mention the behind the scenes world building you did for Blades in the Dark. So we figured instead of building the whole game live, let's do some back end stuff. That way we go in and things kind of make more sense from the get go, as opposed to just making it and then piecing it together as we went along. So yeah, we figured the showrunners should probably be there for world building since we run the show, and then Trendane was the top pick for world builder of the cast.
Clearly indicating that you guys don't know what you're doing.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep.
That was the first indication. Yeah. Not running a show on 3 channels back to back to back.
Is that like Trent was just like, I'm here to save the day, or was it like, if you're summoning me here, shit's not going well?
No, it was more like, what? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I think you literally showed up the same way to this call as you did to every single world building show.
Yeah. Yes, actually.
What are we doing here? Oh, we're world building? I'll figure it out as we go. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
One of those was Angry Day.
I remember.
I haven't been that angry in a long time.
Yep.
So how long did it take you guys to create this city, Metropolis, that we're currently playing in?
8 hours.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was 3 sessions.
Yeah, it was like three-ish hour sessions, so like 8 to 9 hours in total.
The Angry Day was supposed to be 3 hours, and it went out 6. That's another reason I was so angry that day.
Oh, that's right. So it was 2 sessions. One was just 6 hours.
6 hours.
Right. Yeah.
I had shit to do that day.
Yeah.
And
we actually used a world building system. So essentially, to build the world, we actually played a role playing game, which was kind of dope. But there's a system out there called Microscope, which doesn't get much love on streaming or YouTube because it's not super fun to watch. Because it's a lot of like mechanics and just like you talk for a while and then you talk for a while. It's not really role playing at its core like this game is, right? But essentially you pick a focus point and then you each take turns deciding what part of the timeline you want to focus on in that overarching focal point, and you can kind of delve deeper and deeper and deeper, and then you can like role play out specific scenes in that event in that timeline. So we did that a few times. So we have a handful of scenes worked out where we role played for like a good 20, 30, 45 minutes about a specific important event that happened. That was kind of cool.
Yeah. So Microscope was really interesting. I don't think any of us had really used it before. But like, essentially we created these bookends where at the beginning we decided, like, this is the start of the timeline, this is the end of the timeline. And the end of the timeline, we basically said was, this is where the show is going to pick up from. And along with that, we established like these things that are necessarily true and not true about the world. There were some like interesting ones there. What were some of the examples of things that we said were?
So one of the core components, right, is you basically for this game you give your overarching story where we want to have a noir theme and modern times, superheroes, blah blah, right? And you have hard no's and hard yeses, which is what Speedy was just talking about. It's like one of the hard no's. I think your very first hard no was right out of the gate, super fast. Was there's no time travel.
Yeah.
So you will not see time travel in City of Mist Metropolis, because we decided hard no, there is no time travel. There will not be time travel. There has never been time travel, period.
Mhm.
I think one of the other ones we had was a hard yes for monsters are monsters, because I think we all like the idea of like, if you look at the lore for like a Wendigo, if someone has the mythos Wendigo, that shit's gonna suck, and monsters are real and they're not great. So I figured that'd be kind of like add like a supernatural element to the show.
Yeah. Another hard yes we had actually was legends are made every day, which is basically to say that the legendary, like, think people who are reincarnated are not necessarily gods, right? It doesn't have to be a literal deity, or it doesn't have to be a fictional hero. It could be a person who really existed, and the legend of them, the idea of them, became more than the person was.
Right, like Tesla could be a legend.
Yeah, exactly. Or like think V for Vendetta. It's a man behind a mask, but the mask, the idea never dies.
John Henry, I think, was another one we were talking.
John Henry was another one.
Yeah.
Yep.
Paul Bunyan.
Yep.
Like the
Paul
American
Bunyan,
folklores.
wasn't Paul Bunyan made by a marketing agency in the 1920s or something?
To sell flannel shirts.
Sorry, that was referenced in American Gods, which I'm reading right now.
Not true. I actually have no idea if that's true or not. I really don't know, because he's like a Minnesota icon, and I'm from Minnesota, and there's like I forget exactly where, but they literally have a giant statue of him with Babe the Blue Ox.
Statue.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Only one.
Yeah. So you guys, I'm kind of curious from each of you. What were your like inspirations when you were like creating this? Like, where did you, like you said, like noir and like modern day? Like what personal inspirations did you have? Like what stories kind of guided your thought process? Because it sounds like when you're describing Microscope, I'm not too familiar with it. Is that like you guys all like had an input, and then the next person had an input that built upon that? So it sounds like there's a lot of things that could have blended together. What things have blended together, you guys think?
So the way Microscope works is it forces you to blend together, right? So the way it works is everyone. So let's say we're in a Microscope call right now. So like you would be the lens, and you decide, okay, we're gonna discuss, this time period, right? This whatever this vague time period is, right? And it doesn't have to be like a period of years. It could be like some vague term, like the dawn of the world, right? So all the things that we create have to be somehow related, even if tangentially, to the dawn of the world. And then it goes to the next person, and then you can create what's called a period, which is the literal time period, or an event inside of a period, or a scene inside of an event. But those things have to exist for you to create them. So if I create a period, Speedy can create an event that happened in that period, and then Trendane can say, you know what, in that event, I want to play out this specific scene. And then we all make characters. We all decide who's going to be in there and what is the goal of that scene. What are we trying to prove in that scene or disprove, or what's the question we're answering? And then we role play until that question's answered. We had, like, for instance, we had a specific one where there was, I'll be super vague here. There was a legend. There was a sleeper who had no idea what was going on, but he happened to be like some big mafioso. And then there was a very important legend, and then some like legend Goonies. And it was a fight between sleepers and legends, and like no one really understood what angle they were coming in, but they were all in agreement that the one guy was bad and needed to be stopped. But it was a very important turning point in history. We all had to role play that out, and we didn't really know how to get to the ending, so we just role played until we got there, which is kind of a cool thing. And that took like, I don't know, like an hour and a half to just do that one scene.
That was
which was kind of cool.
Really fun one. I really liked that.
Yeah. It was really fun because it's also a system that like doesn't have like hard rules for role playing or anything like that either. Because like we had a fight, we didn't roll dice or anything.
Yep.
Each of us just kind of assumed the roles of different ones of these characters and described like how they would act. There is no GM for that situation either. Technically, the person who like first described the scene is sort of in charge of the world, I guess. But everyone just has a character that they play in the scene, and you just have to basically like respect like each other's like whatever everyone is trying to do. It's not a competitive thing. We're all just trying to get to the end of the same story to answer that question of like what happened here.
Yeah, it's if you think City of Mist is narrative, this is so much more, because like Speedy said, there's no dice at all, right?
Yeah.
So if Speedy says my character shoots you, it's on me to say, yes, okay, I think my character gets shot, but then he also does this after he like knocks this thing over, and that's an important thing for some reason, right? And you're like, yeah, cool, that's an important thing. And when it knocks over, this is what happens. You're like, okay, cool. So it's very much that yes and improv style, which just goes and goes and goes until you get to the question, which you always, when you start a scene, you always ask a question: what are we trying to do here? And then once you have your answer, the scene ends and you move on to the next person's turn. So it's like you're, to go back to your original question, it's a system that forces you to blend together, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
So what was like your each individual like inspirations, like when you were like kind of giving your inputs and all that kind of stuff?
It's funny that you think I remember.
I think we were all over the place. That's the problem.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of inspirations, I mean, sort of like touchstones, kind of. I thought of Warehouse 13 a lot, actually, which is a great show. And part of why I thought of it had to do with a little bit of the early timeline that we were working with. And I don't think this is too much of a spoiler, but we talked about like the forming of the city, kind of, and the early history of the mist and rifts and people with powers. And one of the things that came up was a significant event in history that had to do with the mist is the burning of the Library of Alexandria.
Spoilers, God.
Yeah, right.
It was a while ago. You should be familiar with it by now.
Yeah. The Library of Alexandria burned down. Spoilers.
But that was also a turning point. That happened early on in world building. Yeah, but it was also a turning point. Like, it happened in the first session, within the first hour.
It was like the first role play thing we did.
Yeah, but that solidified the fact that City of Mist Metropolis is in at least an alternate reality version of the world as we know it. And then from there, I think because we all were like, oh, okay, that was dope. From there, if you see the timeline we wrote, there's several other points that are like, boom, this iconic moment in history, missed. Boom, this one missed. Boom, this one, legendary guy. So we kind of like picked focal points throughout history and said, you know what, we'll add a miss. And the further out we started picking them, we were like, you know what, dope. Now we're in the 90s. Cool. Now we're in the, boom. And so like everyone we made furthered how far out in the timeline we were, which is pretty cool.
Because we had, if I remember correctly, very early on, we had a difficult time nailing down exactly when the game was going to take place.
Yeah,
that's true.
In fact, that was the last thing we did, was like after 9 hours, we were like, when do you want to play? The 50s, the 80s, the 70s, or now? We're like,
we like ended the world building like in the 50s, I think. And we basically said like, either like this end right here, like we can either pick up the game right from like this moment, or it could be 50 years in the future when like this has kind of resolved further even. And we ended up going with modern times, obviously, which I think has worked out pretty well. I'm enjoying it. But yeah,
the ability to text each other is just fantastic.
Super convenient.
Sure.
It's come a long way. I like that function has come a long way in our campaign, and I think we started recently just using Discord this week for that. I believe we're on episode 5.
Yes.
6.
Yeah.
So we just went up. We had our 6th episode, and so like that's one thing is that we started using Discord to text each other. Especially Unmade's character and my character text each other about dragons.
Teenage boy things.
Yeah, and I think that's a really interesting thing. Like, and also like the way the city's like built up, and like I mentioned dragons, did you guys have a hand in that, or
In there being dragons?
yeah?
Yes, absolutely. Johnny had said, I want to put this historical event as an event in the timeline that happened because of the mist. And then we did a lot of like back and forth role playing.
Mhm.
And then I decided, like, I think it was just like on a random whim. We were going off on tangents, right? Because that's what happens, right?
Yeah.
We're going off on tangents about like how this could connect to this, could connect to this. And I was like, that event happened because someone used a dragon. And everyone went, yes.
Yes.
It is a dragon.
Yes.
No, there's a dragon now. Now there's dragons. Cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically, we did like every major event in history has some influence of the Mist and Legends. So I think if you look through the book, which is an amazing book, you should actually get it. You guys should use the code 6 and 20 fan on the store.
I did, and I'm very happy.
It's pretty great. One of the questions the book poses is, what if this isn't the only city? And I think early on, whether we knew that question or not, we kind of latched onto it because we posed the question, what if this isn't the first city? And then it expanded from there. So like cities throughout history kind of thing, and then how that would affect the world, and like how the mist would affect the world. And we were like, that's when it spidered into like, what could the mist do? How far does the mist go kind of thing.
And oh, Trent, you're going to say something?
I was going to say it kind of goes back to your question about our various pieces of inspiration for the thing.
Mhm.
And for me, Neil Gaiman's Neverwhere was a big one, because one of the speaking of they're not just being one city is, I think one of the things that I put forth was that it's not just one city. Depending upon where you go in the city, you will get elements of Chicago, or you will get elements of Dallas, or elements of LA. And it's like multiple cities have sort of hyperdimensionally sort of converged to form this, the city. And there are parts of Neverwhere that are like that with Neil Gaiman, and I like that a great deal, which is why I thought that would be a cool thing.
Yeah, we wanted to go for a much more DC city than a Marvel city. Right.
Yeah.
So like Gotham is vaguely like Chicago, right? So we didn't want to say this is Boston or this is this city. It's the city, and it has elements. Like obviously we have Tinseltown, which is a nod to Hollywood, likely because Johnny lives just outside LA, right? So like that's his little wink and nod. But like we all have inputs.
Which Johnny?
Yes.
42.
You'll figure it out. You'll figure it out.
No. Well, I mean, if you're talking about the character, possibly. If you're talking about our MC, no. Never mind. Okay, whatever.
You'll get there. So like we've all had like inputs.
All of California is right outside LA, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's only like 500 miles away. Whatever. It's fine.
Everything's right outside of LA. Minnesota, Texas, New York.
All of those places are outside of LA.
Yes.
Yeah.
Why don't you guys come over?
We do for TwitchCon.
Because they will never leave California. So
that's great. But we did have like input from all like ideas on how to do like other cities, like incorporating certain things. Like I imagine the docks of the city being like Boston Sound, as opposed to like any other place, right? I imagine downtown and like there's a massive Metropolis Park. I imagine that like New York City, like Midtown Manhattan kind of thing. So like we were intentionally vague, though we had ideas of where it would be. We're vague enough that like you don't have to think what we're thinking, but when you say giant park inside of a city, your brain jumps to Central Park, right? So we were vague enough that you're not forced into our mindset, but still specific enough that you're like, oh, okay, that makes sense to look like that. I can see what that is.
And even if you think Golden Gate Park, it's still a giant park inside a city.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, like I got that feeling from like the Blue Collar District. I felt like I think it was the part where the Samuel's gang showed up and they were in lowriders. So I got a very much like LA feeling, and that's how I saw it in my head, like much like an LA ghetto. But then like there was the docks, who is very much like a coastal like city that has like docks like Boston or something like that. But like with the what is it, the Old Town?
Old Quarter?
Old Quarter, yeah.
Yeah,
The Old Quarter, I get a yeah, I get a Louisiana feel from that. Like that's in my head, that's how it is,
Yep.
and it really works out because I think everyone has a different idea of what the cities that you guys are portraying or you guys have made and Johnny's portraying during the show, and it all just kind of blends in well together because we're actually not using any maps at all. Like it's all of us like in our heads like an imagination. I think that's like really it's a really cool concept that the system has. And so like when you guys were doing one thing I wanted to point out earlier, because you were saying that like you said like the mist is moving kind of thing, or the mist has moved through time, and this is not the first city. Do you think like, so with the mist in your guys' realm, do you think like the mist is like older than time itself, or do you have a creation of the mist?
So we had a super vague, like I think we started with like the mist always existing, and then there was a creation of a specific entity to be super vague. Watch the show. There's a specific entity, and then that entity grew into multiple entities, and then things kind of got weird when everyone realized that what they could do, and those were like above Avatar level people, to use mechanical terms, and then their mission or whatever they were doing is super vague. Like we never nailed down if they were trying to shape the mist, to manipulate the mist, use the mist for this, and like it seems like there were factions within those that were trying to do those different things. So we intentionally kind of kept that, I think, pretty vague on what their ultimate goal was. Each little pocket faction had their own kind of goals, and we may be dealing with some of the aftermath of those superb beings. Aftermath.
I think there was also a point, which I think also is part of what led to some of Malcolm's abilities, is how, I'm trying to remember how I phrased it, how dangerous children are.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
With regard
Because they're
to
pure
this.
imagination.
And they will happily spawn things into being. And there was a part that occurred to me early on relative to the creation of the mist. I don't think I mentioned during world building was that in my opinion, Sleepers probably created it.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
It was this overwhelming, oh my God, what is this? I can't deal with this. And as a gestalt of sorts, they, through that, I don't want to know this. I don't want to know this. They spawned as their act of being a rift, effectively sort of created the mist, and then it just took on its own.
Yeah.
I don't think I ever mentioned that in world building.
I think one of the things you did mention was we was one of our earliest ideas that we latched onto and then ultimately completely changed into something entirely different and non-usable. But you had an idea that one of these, mysterious entities was the creator of the mist and was a child locked in like a coma, and they were just spawning, crazy mist nonsense out of their coma brain. And we were like, yes, that sounds awesome. And then everything's like an imagination of a kid. And then when the kid wakes up, everything kind of goes away and everyone's like, what the fuck? Which is how we started with a bunch of ideas, and then that got sidelined and we came up with new ideas and built on top of that. But that was one of our first ideas, and that we ran with for a good couple hours in that world.
And that's an important point too, to mention that that's a lot of how the world building works.
Yeah.
We come up with this idea, everybody locks on like, oh God, this is great. And then somewhere along the line, it gets canned. But through that crucible, you come up with other ideas that actually do work. And there needs to be in the process of world building, you cannot allow pride to go, no, this is my idea and I want it.
Yeah.
Right.
Let it merge and flow. And if something has to die, let it go.
Yeah.
Elsa, I've never seen that. I shouldn't make that reference. And then just, let it grow into something new.
Yeah, if you want to take one nugget of DM advice or world building advice is don't latch on to an idea. Like don't nail that idea down. If you have an idea, cool, write that shit down and then go and see where it becomes, and then revisit it and be like, okay, now that I have this new cool idea, is this affected? Yes, no, change, applicable, yep, delete, or do whatever you want. But that's don't get shoehorned into one single.
The RP scenes help a lot with that.
Yeah.
Yes.
You play things and figure out what works and what doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that was one of the nice things about Microscope too, is that like there's a lot of rapid idea generation where people are just people like come up with things and just want to share them and stuff like that, and we bounce ideas off each other like just incredibly rapidly. But because of the system, like you need to actually like write down specifically like this is the one thing that I am choosing to create on this turn, and then from there we develop and look closer at that one thing. And that prevents it from getting too out of control and makes you actually choose. Like if you get to the point in history when that random idea you had like an hour ago was talking about, and things have changed since then, it's not like a canon part of the world, so you're welcome to change it. It gives a nice kind of structure to things.
We did have a lot of, because we're the creative type, and creative type, that's what you want to create, right? And so we've collaborated before on other games, and so we had that, oh, I'm excited, let's talk about this thing, yeah, let's talk about that thing, let's talk about this thing, and then it spiraled out. So we did have a lot of, trust me, the world building wasn't all peaches and cream. There was several times we're like, man, that's a really cool idea, but also shut up and wait your turn, it's my turn. Like, you're right, I have, how many turns is it? 3 turns? Shit. Yeah.
Yep. And then like, especially like with that, even when it's your turn, you can't make something like that just exist necessarily. Because if you have an idea for something that happened in 1950, but you haven't even created a time period for the 50s yet or whatever, where that encompasses that, like it takes several turns to get to that specific scene that you had an idea for. And so like you need to go through a process and like get to like finish one thing before you move on to another, basically. Yeah.
It's forced collaboration, which is a very interesting concept of like it's very open world, literally, but the rigidity is, this is your turn, you get to do whatever you want. If you so choose to consult with everyone else, neat. And then like on your turn you can do X, Y, or Z. The end. And you're like, shit, but I want to do X and Z, I can't do both of them. It's just kind of
a point where we were going for like a 50s motif, but we weren't sure we were going to be playing there. And I think you, Mike, brought up Fallout.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah. That was an idea that I was super sold on, and I sold Trindane on it. And I thought I had Johnny on it. And I think Speedy was the biggest.
I was not sold on it.
Yeah. I like the idea.
Is it a more like Fallout style world, except like pre-apocalypse?
Yeah, so I like the idea of
technology is super advanced in certain ways, but not others.
Right. So in Fallout, the biggest turning point in the branch of history is that the microchip was never invented. That's why all of technology is high functioning but super enormous. Right. And I was like, that would be cool. That's why everything progressed with that same 50s style theme, even though it's 2077 when the bombs drop. Right. And I was like, what if it's 2017 and it's still that 50s noir theme, because something like, but not necessarily, the microchip was never invented. And now we're always in this pseudo noir, because originally, like Trinaine said, we wanted to do a noir theme, like a very 50s noir, like old school Maltese Falcon. But our biggest concern, I think, was, because it's streamed and because of political correctness and sensibilities and that kind of thing, there are a lot of offbeat topics that are like the norm in the 50s, and now do we just completely strike those from the record and pretend they didn't happen? Now are we doing the 50s justice to do today justice? Like, we weren't sure how to play that. And then with the fact that we have 12 cast members, I can't vet all 12 of them to be like, hey, what are you comfortable with? What are you not comfortable with? Can we talk about this? It's in the 50s. Is that a problem for you? So we were like, you know what, let's just not do the 50s. And I was like, what if we do new age 50s and we have that Fallout branch? But then we scrapped all those ideas and just went with modern day.
Part of why we didn't go with the 50s too was also because it like kind of shoehorns everyone into this idea that this is like the 50s, like America. Like everyone has an idea of what the 50s are like. There's like a preconceived notion, a stereotype of what that age is exactly. And like, we didn't want, like, the city doesn't reflect that perfectly. Because of the world that we created, and because of the nature of City of Mist as a game and everything, we wanted to make sure it was like kind of clearly different from this kind of stereotyped preconceived noir setting that everyone kind of has a notion of.
I mean, so like with the Johnny, when I created Johnny, part of his backstory is that he works at an arcade, his dad's arcade, which is in my head is a very like 80s arcade, you know, like where, you know, it was like the hit place to be. Yeah. And like, you know, there's like little things that, you know, like laser tag or whatever. And like, and I got that feel like some places are more technically more advanced, and some of them have and then go back, such as like when we went to Xanadu, they're like, we have a VCR, and I was just like, okay, what? And like then they're like, oh, we have digital security cameras across the street, and I was like, that's fucking crazy. Okay.
Yeah.
But I like that because then I kind of feel like there was an old school Super Nintendo game like Secret of Evermore. If you guys remember that, there was it was similar to I believe like Secret of Mana in that style. It was like top down, you can see your character, and there's portions where you just go to different realms and there are different time settings. You start off in prehistoric, then you're in medieval, and I thought it kind of gave me that feel about it, and I was like a little nostalgic, and I was like, oh, like where am I gonna end up, like in the super futuristic area, or like somewhere it's like, oh, we have hand and quills, and let me go send a message with the, oh, there goes my pigeon, you know, like it goes from there. But
which Gephardt does.
He literally does, yeah.
Yeah, I think it was Speedy. I think it was you that when we were discussing modern day, I think you had the issue with not focusing on the fact that it's modern day. Right? Like technology was your biggest hang up. We're like, well, why would I go do detective work when I could just Google all that shit, right? So our goal with making it modern was to just be like, it's modern, and then have cell phones and Google, and like if you look, no one's Googled anything, I don't think, in the entire 6 episodes.
No, we saged it because we created Sage. Our show has created so much shit that people started using in the other shows that I was just awesome. Like, yeah, what's up?
Nice. But that was the goal, is to like not make modern day the setting, right? The city is the setting. It just happens to be modern day. So like, yes, there's cell phones, and yes, we say, oh, I pull out my cell phone, or oh, I text my whatever, right? But the cell phone isn't the focus of the story. So we don't need to know that you have the next gen Google, the Sage phone, right? We don't focus on the technology itself. We focus on the story around the technology.
Right.
So that's why it seems vague. And I think like the character is also like there's a reason, I think, like assuming that I know Johnny's headspace, right, which is impossible for a DM, the character who owns Xanadu, there's a reason why like that guy would have VHS, because he's more of an old school guy. Kind of that's how I think about that. Is like I think that Mr. Gallows is the kind of guy that would totally have a VHS.
He has a Zach Morris phone. He's like, call me on my ringy ding, and it's like giant phone, and you're like,
the hamburger.
Yeah.
Nicolas Cage in the beginning of The Rock, when he gets the Beatles album, it's like, these sound better. I'm like, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, I think Johnny took some inspiration there from American Gods as well, which I think was a really interesting concept. If you haven't read or watched it, I've only read the book, which I've just been rereading as we've been playing this. And super good book. But in that, they talk a lot about like the old gods and the new gods, and like the new gods in American Gods are technology. They are the things that people worship now are the media and the internet, and people believe in like the Men in Black and stuff like that. And like the old gods try to avoid that. They find the power that is in like this sort of old school, this analog history of like America, essentially. And I think that has a lot to do with like the kind of differing technologies throughout the city too, where like that 80s arcade, that like things like that stick around more because like there's this nostalgia, there's this belief, the same way that people believe in legends and it gives them power, right? It's the same thing, that those things are able to stick around for longer just because they exist, you know. It's the same thing with the bar that Geo works at. It's a place that is kind of out of time, that it's like a remnant almost of like that 50s era or like the 20s era of gangsters and stuff. And so it's really like it's meant to be that way, where just pieces of history kind of pop up in different ways, because each of those are just attached to this emotion and this kind of belief in a way.
Yeah, because much in the same way, like you said about American Gods, like Wednesday knows full well who he is in American Gods, right? So like it stands to reason once you hit that like locked into avatar status for City of Mist, you know who you are as a legend, and so you want creature comforts, right? Like there's a reason why Mr. Gallows wants things the way he wants them, and there's a reason his doorman is who his doorman is, right? There's a reason he's collecting people because that's what his legend wants. The legend wants his family back together, and he wants things how he wants them. So yeah, I think that's exactly what Speedy said. Like pulling from different time periods and different like sources, like American Gods.
It also goes back to how children are so dangerous, but how belief shapes the city, and the idea that the Queen of Hearts is like, you know, that is like the theme of this place, and everybody accepts that that's the way this place is. That's part of its charm, and that belief empowers its ability to sustain the way it is, kind of thing.
Yes, it's very much that sense. It's like things last because people want them to last. Like in our world, things get outdated. In like this world, things kind of stick around. They linger because I mean, people still want to believe in them, really.
Now I got the Cranberry song stuck in my head currently with Linger.
I mean, did you have to?
Yes.
Did you have to?
Definitely.
Did you have to? Did you have to?
Oh, that one.
Yeah.
Okay.
No. I just said a few words, and I was choked up a little bit because the water went down the wrong tube.
That's fair.
So
You had a choice of two tubes. One.
Yeah. You know.
The chance.
No, go ahead.
I was actually going to say, so from the perspective of someone who's not one of the core world builders, are there questions you have about the world that we can vaguely avoid answering?
No, because it's just going to frustrate me for like the getting like getting those half answers, going like, oh, I want more. You know, I need more. Because I'm already at that point where I'm playing the game and I'm like, why is this shit happening? Something, because I have the book and I'm reading through the book and I was like, that's not working the way it's intended. And I don't know if that's because that's like a homebrewed rule that, you know, you like Johnny has thrown in, but Johnny has plainly said, you know, something's not working as intended. And I was just like, why? Like, why? And like, and that in my brain, I love the character I created because I get that question that shit. Because every time I play in a campaign where I'm like, I'm a dumb barbarian, I'm like, you know, so yeah, he doesn't notice the thing I obviously picked up on, but you know, he's like, whatever, I'm gonna go over here, and he walks off, and you're like, okay. But for the most part, I mean, like, I'm kind of interested to see like, what like, so none of us have been to the Old Quarter yet, or
I have.
Have you?
We went yesterday actually.
I went yesterday. I went on Wednesday.
Morgan and I went to the OK Bite.
Oh yeah, that's right. Okay, where when
we didn't really do much there. I mean, we went to a Cajun restaurant. It wouldn't have been particularly different than going to a restaurant in Midtown, other than that we got some good jambalaya.
When did Malcolm go on Wednesday?
The library.
Oh, was that in the old quarter? Okay,
Mhm.
I didn't realize that was in the old quarter. So I mean, there's like quite a few things, and I think like I don't know if there's an industrial area.
There is.
And like no one's gone there yet.
Mhm.
I thought
There's
the blue collar district was the
No,
industrial.
there's two separate ones. So here's a cool little sneak peek that I don't know that anyone here really super knows or latched onto. So on Johnny's channel on Video Store Cowboy, there was a 4-shot, a little mini series of of City of Mist. Maybe year and a half ago, maybe a year ago, right? It was one of his earliest shows he had on there. I was on there. My friend Mike was on there. My friend Ryan was on there, and one of Johnny's friends was on there. And we have the main story of City of Mist 6 and 20, right? But we also have the one shots that are part of the charity stream, which there's one tomorrow. So the one shots tie back to the story in some way. The most recent one shot, so the second one shot in this series, I played and my friend Ryan played the same characters we played in the 4-shot from Johnny's game, which means the events of Johnny's game forever ago are now tied to this, which is where the beast came from. We were in the industrial quarter in that, or the industrial district in that area. Catherine Devereaux, the reason she exists is because my character's name is Desmond Devereaux, and that's where he got the name from, and pulled her in as a character. So there's subtle tiebacks to that situation. And then in this most recent one shot, I played that same character again, and we had dealings with Tamonte and Mr. Gallows. So that's a tangential storyline that's affecting. It seems like it's going to affect our main storyline some way. Essentially, in that storyline, Tamonte's daughter became a sleeper. And neither Tamonte nor Mr. Gallows were super happy about it. But they were also super vague with directions, and so we didn't know what we were supposed to protect. And this next upcoming charity stream, I believe, is going to have those same characters again, trying to, undo what they messed up.
I think Johnny's in one of those scenes.
You might be.
Johnny. It was the second day. Johnny walked in to fix Mr. Gallo's VCR because he broke it. And he went and he walked past a group of people, and he just like looked at him funny, and he kept walking. And he described them to me, and I was like, okay. And I was like, why do I need to know this? And I was like, oh, this is for another story that happened. And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So
it's interesting with like the stories and plots within plots. It's kind of cool. It's pretty cool. Like the weaving web here that we have there is pretty cool.
I mean, yeah, that's really cool. And I like how Johnny has like brought everything kind of together. I don't know how the fuck he's been doing it lately.
Cocaine.
I think like
lots of cocaine. If you guys ever see a picture of Johnny and he's like, I was eating powdered donuts, and there's a bunch of white shit all over his face. That's he was eating powdered donuts. He likes powdered donut every once in a while, right? Get off his back about it. So let's start wrapping things up right now. So let's go around the table. Let's do your outro, and let's also give a little piece of advice if anyone wants to create their own campaign for City of Mist. So what advice would you give them? We'll start with you, Unmade Gaming.
So my piece of advice is actually read the book. Yeah, because we didn't. We didn't even have the books, and I think most of us didn't even have the PDF of the book before we started world building. So it wasn't until character creation that we started pulling things from the book into the world. So yeah, give the book a read, because the world that's in the book is pretty dope, and it's a great firm jumping off point if you want to create stuff. And a lot of the things we thought we created are actually already part of the book, and having read them, I'm like, man, my idea was real cool. Then it was someone else's idea, and I just called it as mine. Damn it. Yeah, so definitely read the book. It's dope. It's a really good book, and there's lots of pretty pictures as well. But if you want to see more of my face, you can see me on 6 and 20 on Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern, and I stream on Unmade Gaming, so you can find me on Unmade Gaming on all social media.
Speedy.
My one piece of advice Let me think.
No skips. You got to cover it right now.
God. Okay. Find.
This is also what it's like to do world building.
Yeah. This is this
have to come up with a thing
like,
right
Come
now.
on!
You have 3 hours. If you say for 4 more minutes, I'm going to skip your turn.
Yep. So my piece of advice is find something that really interests you. Find like a plot thread or anything that interests you, and play it out all on your own, and leave aftermath. And in the aftermath, you will find all of these other interesting people and interesting things that exist in the city.
And don't
go to talk to other people about it, because us doing this together helped a lot.
Yeah.
As for me, I'm Speedy. You can find me online at Not So Speedruns, and you can catch me doing 6 and 20 on my channel on Thursdays, 8 p.m. Eastern time, with McLoken and Trendane and a couple other people, I guess.
Trendane.
My piece of advice is the same piece of advice I give to everybody who wants to get into role-playing tabletop stuff. And it is huge. A lot of people are like, why are you so eager for your character to die? I'm not eager for my character to die. I am just very happy with the idea of occasionally being wrong. Be willing to be wrong. Learn how to embrace failure, because there is tremendous story that that can come from that. Whether it's shitty rolls or just something that just doesn't gel right with a scene, that you have this idea and you want to get to it and it just doesn't work, either because of the dice or whatever. There can be some beautiful, incredibly brilliant emotional moments that come out of things like that. And the ability to kind of let off the clutch and just let it ride, let it go. Again, I keep coming back to that, and I still haven't seen the movie between then and it can be unbelievably rewarding, and it doesn't feel like it because you feel like you're losing, but ultimately you will wind up winning. And it's the ability to trust in all the people that are role-playing with you to help create the best possible story. And that's my ultimate goal, is an incredibly powerful story, not that my character wins, and everything. I just want a great story. Be willing to be wrong and let things go. And I'm Tren, and I don't really stream. I just show up on other people's channel who happen to be streaming. That's just kind of what I do.
You can't get rid of him.
What?
We can't get rid of him. He just shows up all the time.
I was going to say like herpes, but I wasn't going to, and then you said that. But anyway, okay. So best thing, if you want to catch me, that's no bad. Let me go with some. If you want to know what I'm doing, best thing is just follow me on Twitter, and I usually wind up tweeting out whatever we're working on at the time, and retweeting and blah 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 blah
Blah blah blah blah blah blah
blah blah blah blah blah blah blah.
I'm your host, McLoken. Thank you guys for all joining the first episode and talking about world creation. I figured this was probably a good topic to start off with. And then, so next week we're going to have character creation, where we're going to actually have Johnny and two other guests. And we're all going to talk about character creation and their inspirations behind their characters specifically, and kind of give you guys help if you don't understand what you understand of it. And I had little secret messages. So god damn it, Mike,
you just read it too.
Yeah. I will not repeat that. So I want to remind you guys, if you guys go to the Son of Oak website, if it is correct, or City of Mist website, I believe it's cityofmist.com, you guys can get this book. It's a very big book. It's very fantastic. The illustrations are great. It feels nice on the hands. You guys, when you order the book, you can get $5 off with the discount code 6and20fan. Please use that code. It supports the show, and it's a fantastic cast of people. I would love to do that show all the way into season 90, and play the same character. Trent, shut
I
up.
turn 18.
I just want to throw out the website is cityofmist.co.
.co? Oh,
And,
.co. Cityofmist.co. The link will be down below, and the promo code in the description. So you guys can generally find all of us. I'm gonna shout out Video Star Cowboy Show, which is also going to be at 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. if you're one of those Pacific Standard people. And I don't know the other time zones, so I can't help you if you're overseas right now.
Just list them all.
Yes, Germany. I think they're 6 hours ahead. I don't know. I can never remember.
It's like 1 a.m. GMT.
But how do you know that off the top of your head?
England is plus 5 hours from where I am. I play.
Oh, yeah, that's right. It's 6 for me. So, but yeah, you guys catch us every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, starting on Video Store Cowboys channel, then going to Unmade Gaming's channel, which is right down below me, and then Not So Speedruns channel, which is kitty corner from me over there. All the same times, and get invested in those characters, because so there's some crazy stuff going on in those shows. And also try to can we put the playlist in the description below? Yes, too? Catch up from season 1 to 6. That's a lot of content to catch up on, but it's worth it, man. I recommend it. So I want to thank you guys so much for joining me on episode 1. It was a blast. I liked hearing all your inspiration, your stories, and finding out about Microscope. I may do that with Meta tonight, and kind of be like, hey, let's look at Microscope, and
it's pretty dope.
Yeah, I know she's trying to world build a little bit, so. And she always comes to me and bounces ideas off me, so I'm like, "Wow, how about this one?" That might be a great function. So I'm so used to streaming and not making a YouTube video. I was like, "Well, let's find someone to raid," and we don't have anyone to raid. We're just gonna end the show right here and now. So bye, guys. I'll see you next week for episode 2 of Beyond the Mist.
Bye bye.